Tonight, out with friends, the last moments of a young man's life as the manhunt for a murderer goes on.
The smash and dash into a crosstown joyride. Luxury cars targeted in an early morning raid.
Why the Liberal Party won't be taking this video to police.
The biggest change to aged care in 30 years. Billions to keep the elderly at home, but at what cost?
And a fitness test fail rules out a power defender on the eve of the semi-final, as Ken Hinkley denies his job's on the line.
This is Adelaide's 9 News with Kate Collins and Brenton Ragless.
Good evening. We can tonight show you some of a 19-year-old murder victim's final movements out with friends just an hour before his life was cut short outside his Seaton home.
The killer responsible for the vicious stabbing still hasn't been found, as a young man charged during the police investigation faces court.
This is one of the last moments of a young man's life. Friends say this is Scott Phillips walking to the Seaton Hotel with mates at 9:11 on Wednesday night. About an hour later, he was dead.
I'm angry. He's a 19-year-old good boy that would go out of his way to help anyone, and there was no one there for his last dying minutes to help him.
Shortly after he arrived home, the power went out and his killer was waiting, luring Scott into an ambush, stabbing him to death in the front yard of his Carey Avenue home. Signs of a desperate attempt to flee laid bare today, and a friend who didn't want to be identified rattled by his sudden death.
Scott was on the front doorstep by himself screaming for help and no one came.
Multiple weapons have been seized and a man arrested during the investigation. 19-year-old Cooper Benny, hands cuffed and head bowed, facing multiple firearms charges. And while no one has been charged with the murder, he remains part of the investigation. The neighbourhood is still grappling today with how this could have happened here in their street, paying small tributes to the young life taken in such a violent ambush. Some laying flowers at his home.
He was a nice, quiet person, like he wasn't anybody harmed to nobody.
As questions remain about who the killer is.
I'm hoping that justice does come for that person.
Inga Nielsen, 9 News.
Some Medindi residents were left with a mess and without cars as thieves boldly stole luxury vehicles from their driveway, barrelling straight through closed gates, making off with 2 BMWs. Police were close behind. They were already patrolling the area after reports of people breaking into a home. The 3 young men crashed one of the cars and dumped the other in the southern suburbs, where they again fled from police. We go live to Josephine Shannon. Josie, they were finally arrested.
Kate, they were, and that was after they led police on a chase through the city 30 kilometres away from here where it all began. It was all thanks to live tracking on the blue BMW. Officers could follow the car and catch the 18 and 20-year-old men. And Brenton, it wasn't just the 2 cars they stole. They also allegedly took bags, a briefcase and a PlayStation.
Josie, thank you. Adults who recruit children to crime in South Australia will now suffer the toughest penalties in the nation. Under new laws, an adult convicted of influencing a child to commit a crime faces up to 15 years in prison or the penalty of whatever crime has been committed.
We don't want to get to a situation that we've seen in some other states. So it's us proactively looking at what we can do in South Australia to make South Australians as safe as possible.
The laws are modelled on legislation already in place in other states.
The Liberal Party has decided it will not be making a police report about the controversial white powder video alleged to depict former leader David Spears. Gus McDonald, the party's been under pressure to back Mr Spears' assertion that it's a hoax.
Yeah, that's right, Kate. Mr Spears told colleagues the video is a deep fake and has been urged by Liberal leader Vincent Tarzia to report that to authorities. But with no report believed to have been made by him so far, the Liberal Party has been urged to make one on his behalf because of the serious political implications if this is a deep fake. Although some Liberal MPs have told me the move was being considered, Mr Tarzia provided a written statement to 9 News saying this was a personal matter for David Spears, and if he believes the video is fake, then he should contact the police. The video, which emerged earlier this week, appears to show Mr Spears snorting the substance from a plate in his Kingston Park home. The former Liberal leader taking medical leave yesterday, saying he needs to look after his emotional health and well-being, with the events of this week leaving him vulnerable and at risk. It's unclear whether he does intend to take the video to authorities or when he will return to work. Kate.
Gus, thank you. Police have revealed they're dealing with a spree of robberies involving ATMs, investigating the links between 9 of the crimes so far. 5 have been ram raids using vehicles known to have been stolen. They began in September last year, with the most recent and unsuccessful attempt at St Agnes last month. Others occurred at Blair Athol, Craigmore, Kersbrook and Woodcroft, with break-ins on cash machines at Smithfield Plains, Mount Pleasant, Salisbury North and St Clair.
On the eve of Port Adelaide's cutthroat semi-final, a defiant Ken Hinkley has slammed suggestions his job is on the line.
The contracted coach declaring those views as uneducated. Regardless, pressure has reached an all-time high at Alberton, and it showed today.
Ken Hinkley's D-Day is almost here. His message crystal clear.
I'm not going to be a smart ass here in any way, shape or form, but I'm contracted.
That may be so, still it's done nothing to stop the assertion his 12-year tenure at Alberton could come to an end tomorrow night if the Power exit the finals in straight sets.
It's uneducated. It's not the facts.
With so much at stake, tensions were high at Club HQ this morning. 9 News capturing a surprise fitness test involving Ryan Brenton. Medical staff putting the defender to work for close to an hour before Hinkley faced the cameras.
Is he going to play?
You're expecting to play, yes.
Is he dealing with a little bit of a calf niggle?
No.
He doesn't have any issue at all?
No.
But shortly after, Power officials revealed Brenton had indeed failed the fitness test and was out of the side. It's another hit to an already depleted backline tasked with restraining the Hollywood Hawks. Their chief antagonist, Jack Ginnivan, opting for a rare low-profile arrival, having called Adelaide boring earlier this week.
I think we'll just have dinner at the hotel lobby, and hopefully Jack just stays the group and does what he needs to do for tomorrow.
Still reeling after the smashing from Geelong, the Power faithful are jittery.
Well, last week was nothing short of a disaster, and even then that's selling it short, but you know, we've got the second chance for a reason.
Even though it's Friday the 13th tomorrow, I've got really good high hopes that we'll do really, really well.
But 2004 Premiership star Gavin Wanganeen is keeping his faith in Hinkley.
You've got a coach who finished second after the home and away season, so any other coach would take that any day of the week.
On one hand, the end could be nigh for Ken. On the other, a premiership is still only 3 wins away.
Something about our club that we don't like to give up. And we've always been that way, and we're going to continue to be that way. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Braden Ingram, 9 News.
And Braden Ingram is at Alberton for the official banner making. Braden, you have some breaking team news.
Yeah, they've just dropped Kate. Todd Marshall is into the side. He's barely played in the past 2 months, but he'll be part of a very tall forward line. Josh Sin, he's only played 8 career AFL games. It'll be a baptism of fire tomorrow night, his 9th game. The outs, Jed McEntee and Ryan Brenton, as I mentioned earlier. The banner making here, well, it's a pretty positive vibe despite the fact they know what's on the line and potentially a straight set sex. It'll take them around a few hours, around 20 cheer squad members here. We know that they're always a closely guarded secret, but what I can tell you, Brenton, that it certainly has a real battle-hardened mentality. They're ready for the fight tomorrow night.
Great stuff, Braden. Thank you. More care and more time at home. That's the promise of a landmark deal on aged care tonight, but it comes with a warning there'll be more costs. Aged care operators say the agreement provides the certainty needed to see additional facilities built, with a vow to bring wait times down.
The old saying says home is where the heart is.
Hi Bob, it's Cherie.
Tonight, a new deal for aged care will make home where the help is.
Helping them remain independent in their home and their community for longer.
At the centre of the change, the Support at Home program, providing assistance for 1.4 million Australians to age at home with nursing, rehabilitation, meal preparation, gardening and independent living support. The $4.3 billion program will come into effect from July next year.
We'll reduce wait times for in-home care with a target of 3 months by July 2027.
They will not pay a cent more
And that was one of the concessions that was not negotiable from the Coalition.
Programs will be tailored to individuals, and Australians currently on a home care package will keep that package. Up to $15,000 will also be available for home upgrades like ramps and rails to make homes safer.
Older Australians built this country and what they deserve, to have dignity and respect in retirement.
Self-funded retirees will pay up to 12 times more than pensioners. All home care costs will count towards lifetime contribution caps for non-clinical care. That will rise from the current ceiling of $80,000 to $130,000, with that figure indexed and growing annually. The reforms are backed by Labor and the Coalition, meaning they'll pass this parliament and survive future ones, bringing much needed certainty to the industry.
I think over the next couple of days and weeks, you might see large providers announcing new builds for the first time in years because they can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
The other cost, aged care facilities will be able to retain 2% of residents' deposits for 5 years, totalling up to $75,000. The next challenge, training and staffing the thousands of positions that will be created and needed.
Because it is a real privilege to work in aged care. It is some of the most meaningful work you could ever hope to do.
Charles Croucher, 9 News.
A young man who helped his father cover up an execution-style killing has had his sentence increased by 6 months. But Marco Yandel was allowed to once again walk from court to remain in the community. Prosecutors appealed the partially suspended sentence handed to him in July, asking for the 20-year-old to be returned to jail. Yandel spent 15 months in custody for his role after Stephen Murphy was shot dead at the family's Cuddler property.
You looked emotional inside. Are you relieved?
We're all relieved it's finished.
Marco's father, Keith, will stand trial next year.
Up to 9 defence commanders have been stripped of medals awarded for their service during the Afghanistan war. The federal government's decision has left some infuriated and raised questions as to whether the punishment fits the crime.
Australia's longest war, stained by misconduct and murder committed by our military's best.
This will always be a matter of national shame.
A 4-year inquiry by former Judge Paul Brereton implicated 25 Special Forces soldiers in 39 unlawful killings, none in the heat of battle. He found there was no credible information commanding officers knew of the alleged war crimes, but they remained accountable for what happened on their watch, recommending their medals be reviewed.
Medals are awarded for conspicuous conduct. And the judgment that Major General Brereton goes through is, had we known what had occurred, would the medals have been granted?
We are judging these officers before the government knows the truth.
Up to 9 senior soldiers receiving letters this week from Richard Marles, ordering them to surrender their medals. 9's been told some are still serving soldiers. All were majors or lieutenant colonels at the time.
Throwing your diggers under the bus and not one of those officers will end up with a charge.
Shadow Defence Minister Andrew Hastie, a former SAS captain, heard rumours of wrongdoing by Special Forces before his own deployment to Afghanistan in 2013. He says troops were let down by higher ranks who lacked moral courage.
But those in the chain of command who saw the post-mission slide decks with the kill counts and pictures of dead individuals had an obligation to ask questions.
A point of view that had troubled former Defence Force Chief Angus Campbell. He was commanding officer in the Middle East at the time of the alleged war crimes.
I wonder, was there something I walked past? Was there some indicator I didn't see?
9 News has confirmed Angus Campbell offered to surrender his own medal from Afghanistan some years back, but was rebuffed by the Morrison government. Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
The nation's strictest laws for child sex predators will soon be applied in South Australia. Under new laws passing Parliament today, those convicted of a second serious child sex offence will be detained indefinitely until the offender can satisfy a court they can control their behaviour. Once released, offenders will face the possibility of electronic monitoring for life.
These vile monsters will be locked up and we will throw away the key.
The laws come into effect later this year.
They just went head-to-head on the debate stage, but today Kamala Harris and Donald Trump took a moment to stand side by side. The US presidential candidates pausing to remember the 23rd anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks.
A handshake sealed with a smile. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in a rare moment of unity. Pausing alongside the president to remember the nearly 3,000 lives lost on September 11, 2001. And then, a day after his deputy took on Trump, came this strange moment. Joe Biden briefly donning the trademark red hat.
There he goes.
In what the White House says was a bipartisan gesture.
Just remember, no eating dogs and cats.
Thanks for the support, Joe, posted the Trump campaign, as Trump himself resumed claiming debate victory.
You know, when you win, you don't really necessarily have to do it a second time.
President 45 refusing to commit to round 2 against Kamala Harris.
We won the debate according to every poll, every single poll. I think that, are we going to do a rematch? I just don't know.
More than half of debate watchers in a new poll disagree. 63% saying the vice president outperformed the former president, but Trump told 9 News it was his night.
Mr. President, what would you give yourself out of 10?
Pretty close to a 10. That was our best debate.
The debate was a confidence booster for the vice president, and it will calm any jitters within the Democratic Party. But debate victories don't necessarily translate into election wins. But on the road to the White House, the Swifties could help shift the needle. Taylor Swift's backing of Kamala Harris in a post signed off childless cat lady has drawn more than 9 million likes, to the ire of Trump fans. Fine, Taylor, you win, posted billionaire Trump supporter Elon Musk in a bizarre post. I will give you a child and guard your cats with my life.
Taylor Swift just endorsed Kamala Harris. Like, you can kiss your sales to the Republican audience goodbye, Taylor. Hope you enjoyed them while you had them.
Trump dismissing it as bad blood.
I was not a Taylor Swift fan. It was just a question of time.
In Washington, D.C., Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Emergency services crews have made the difficult decision to end the search for a 16-year-old boy swept off the rocks on Granite Island on Father's Day. The 10-day search had been conducted by air and by foot and four-wheel drive on land, with drones used to search rock cavities. The case will now be handed to the coroner.
Police want help finding this man who they say launched an unprovoked attack near Castle Plaza at Edwardstown soon after getting off this bus from the city. The victim was kicked from behind and then punched in the face. It happened on the 8th of August. Anyone who recognises him should call Crime Stoppers.
Well, Tom Rehn joins us now with what's ahead in sport. And Rennie, as we heard earlier, Ken Hinckley's rolling the dice at selection.
Yeah, he's gone with 4 tools after recalling Todd Marshall, Kate, which is a big gamble. And a little later, the coach tells us why he's decided to keep the faith in Charlie Dixon for the club's do-or-die semi-final, whilst also issuing a bold challenge should the Hawks target Zach Butters. Exclusive details on the Crows' bid to bolster the club's coaching ranks. And Travis torments England in the first of the T20s.
Thank you, Rennie. We'll talk to you soon. It's been 10 years today since little William Tyrrell disappeared in New South Wales.
The 3-year-old in the Spider-Man suit, not seen since. But next, we speak with the former lead detective who claims he knows of information which could help solve the mystery.
Armed with a gun, another with a knife, SA police need your help to find these Gawler pub bandits.
And a little later, the shock pregnancy discovery uncovered by Adelaide researchers. Firefighters have rescued a pet cat from a Glenelg South unit fire. The blaze contained to a spare room where it had been started by an unattended candle. About $35,000 damage was done.
Frightening CCTV footage has been released as police continue to investigate the armed robbery of a Gawler pub. 2 men stormed the gaming room on the 3rd of September. One with a gun drawn, the other had a knife. They stole cash and fled in the waiting car. A stolen black Mercedes sedan. That car was found dumped and burnt out 2 days later.
The former lead detective in the William Tyrrell case claims he knows of information which could help solve the mystery.
On the 10th anniversary of the 3-year-old's disappearance, Gary Duberlin has expressed frustration at the current investigation.
Kendall, the sleepy village on the mid-north coast, continues to keep a dark secret. Where's William?
The whole community was in shock, and I still get a tingling down my spine when I think about William and drive down past that area.
He was the little boy in the Spider-Man suit who vanished 10 years ago today while playing outside his foster grandmother's home.
It was a shock, but no one could believe that he wasn't going to be found.
A missing persons case which became one of the country's most enduring mysteries.
I kind of think of William Tyrrell's disappearance as similar to that of Madeleine McCann. There was a lot of images available at the time and they really resonated with the public.
Former homicide detective Gary Jubilan was one of the lead investigators as police zeroed in on 2 suspects. But they were wrongly accused. One of them, washing machine repairman Bill Spedding, was awarded more than $1 million in damages and Jubilan was sacked. He remains on the outer, but claims he could still help solve the case.
I just hope all the facts come out about this matter. That's what, if it's frustrating, it's things that I know that haven't come out in the public.
With Jubilan moved on, the investigation took a dramatic turn. William Tyrrell's foster mother became the prime suspect. The police believe the 3-year-old died in a fall from a balcony and his foster mother disposed of the body. What evidence caused detectives to come up with that theory? Well, police will have to show their hand when the inquest into William's suspected death resumes later this year. Today on the anniversary, William Foster's father was seen leaving his Sydney home. His wife has continually denied having anything to do with his disappearance. A decade has passed and an appeal today from the Premier.
There's $1 million reward. Somebody out there knows something about this case.
The boy in the superhero suit, an image which continues to haunt not just a community, but a nation. Damien Ryan, 9 News.
A collection of Indigenous artefacts have begun the long journey home to Australia after a museum in London agreed to their repatriation. The items were used for hunting and were taken from the Tennant Creek area of the Northern Territory nearly a century ago. They've been on display at the Horriman Museum and have now been handed back to the elders from the Warramungu community.
Overwhelmed, seeing it going back to country like we say when we first see them, we'll be taking you home,
Once home, the items will be housed at a cultural centre.
Well, textbook spring weather across Adelaide today with plenty of sun.
And Jessica Braithwaite, it's round 2 tomorrow.
Yes, if you like today, then I have got another one in store for you tomorrow. Plenty of sunshine we are seeing in Adelaide this week. And today was absolutely average, and I mean that in the best possible way. The average for Adelaide in September is around 18 degrees, and that is exactly what we saw in Adelaide today with all of that sunshine. It's cooling off pretty quickly. Right now, it's 12.7 degrees in the city, but we have a high-pressure system just hanging out in the bight there, and that is set to deliver another day just like today for us tomorrow. So I've got all those details coming up for you soon.
We'll see you soon. Thanks, Jessica. Well, John Bon Jovi goes from singer to saviour.
Performing an heroic act to help save a stranger's life. Up next, what the selfless rock and roll legend did while in the middle of filming a music video.
The King's rare break in royal protocol and the question that made it all happen.
And the good news for this runaway penguin that managed to escape captivity.
Travelling to Kyiv on a rare joint visit, the US Secretary of State and the British Foreign Secretary have met with President Zelensky and pledged an additional $2.2 billion of aid to Ukraine. The trip comes at a critical juncture for the Ukrainian leader, who is seeking permission to use US missiles for long-range strikes deep into Russia.
Bursting through the door and storming the Senate, hundreds of protesters spill onto the chamber floor in Mexico. These demonstrators rallying against a judicial reform that will see judges at all levels of government elected by a popular vote. It passed in spite of the interruption. Critics fear the reform will undermine democracy in the country.
King Charles has done away with royal protocol, warmly embracing members of New Zealand women's rugby team. It was a rare moment of public affection from the monarch, who also apologised for not being able to go over the ditch during his trip down under next month.
King Charles at the centre of a royal rugby scrum. Hugs, giggles and beaming smiles as the monarch is mobbed by New Zealand's women's rugby team. The Black Ferns were invited to Buckingham Palace ahead of a match against their English rivals, when winger Aisha Letienga cheekily requested a hug.
A hug? Yeah. Why not?
A rare display of public affection beyond a handshake from the 75-year-old, who later called the hug healing. The King apologising for not being able to visit New Zealand while on his Australian tour next month, blaming doctors' orders.
In the meantime, give my love to New Zealand, please, will you, New Zealanders.
They performed a traditional Maori greeting and presented a Guernsey to the King, who offered some life advice in return.
I hope you make the most of your time in the team, because you don't stay young for very long, as I've discovered. It all goes quicker than you think.
The palace visit going more smoothly than the unveiling of sculptures of his late mother and father in Northern Ireland. Critics say they look nothing like Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip.
I'm not a royalist as such, but I think that she should have had more. They haven't done her right. She just doesn't look right.
Not quite the warm reception their son received in person today. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
A rock legend turned Good Samaritan, John Bon Jovi, has paused the filming of his latest music video to help a woman in need. He spotted her standing on the edge of a pedestrian bridge in the US and persuaded her to climb back over the rails to safety, the pair then sharing a hug. Australia is providing Vietnam with $3 million of humanitarian aid to help them recover from the devastation of Typhoon Yagi. The death toll has now risen to 197 as flash floods and landslides continue to wreak havoc in the country's north. She may be small, but this penguin has a mighty sense of adventure. Pen Chan was born in captivity and escaped from an event in Japan in August. Having never swum in the open sea, keepers feared the worst. But in what they're describing as a miracle, she was found happily bobbing in the water at a beach 2 weeks later.
Well, too much sugar and a high-fat diet.
A new risk has been uncovered for pregnant women. Coming up next, the not-too-sweet link that's been revealed by Adelaide researchers.
Plus, Australia's latest European gateway. Ahead, exclusive details on the new airline about to touch down.
And details on the new, less painful vaccine that's needle-free.
Groundbreaking research has revealed the lasting impact a pregnant woman's weight and diet can have on their unborn baby's heart. The study reveals babies born to pregnant women with obesity are more likely to develop heart problems and diabetes as adults. Alice Monfries explains.
Published by researchers from the University of South Australia, the groundbreaking findings show for the first time that maternal obesity alters a critical thyroid hormone in an unborn baby's heart, disrupting its development. It also found a mother's high-fat, sugary diet during pregnancy increases the chance of their baby becoming insulin-resistant in adulthood, potentially triggering diabetes or causing cardiovascular disease.
We're born with all of the heart muscle cells that we'll have for the rest of our life.
The researchers say the study proves the importance of good nutrition in the lead up to and during pregnancy, not just for the mother, but also for the health of the baby. They're also calling for cardiometabolic health screening for all babies born from mothers deemed obese in the hope of earlier detection of a child's heart disease risk.
Researchers from the University of the Sunshine Coast are calling on Aussies to roll up their sleeves, not for a jab, but for a patch. They need healthy adults up to 50 years old who haven't had an immunisation in the last 30 days to help with a clinical trial into a bird flu vaccine to be administered via a patch.
We basically place it against the upper arm of the participant. It's pressed down for about 2 minutes. That impregnates the skin, delivers the antigen under the skin.
The World Health Organization recording more than 1,500 cases of avian influenza since early 2013. Researchers say this trial is all about preparing for the possibility of future outbreaks, and participants will be paid for their time.
It's one of our most popular destinations, and now travellers will soon have a new way to fly to Europe, including a non-stop trip. Turkish Airlines are starting new services from Australia to Istanbul from December, promising greater competition and flights to more destinations than any other carrier in the world.
It's a deal Sydney Airport has been negotiating for some time, one it says has major benefits for passengers.
Obviously bringing in another airline, particularly the quality of Turkish and the destinations they fly, will mean more competition. It also opens up more demand because now you can fly to more routes and it creates demand as well as competition.
Turkish Airlines already flies to Istanbul from Melbourne 3 times a week via Singapore. It will now fly 4 direct flights a week from Sydney via Kuala Lumpur from December. But its big plan to be the first to fly non-stop to Europe from Sydney in 2026, 22 hours to Istanbul using the same long-range Airbus A350-1000, which Qantas will also use to fly non-stop between Sydney and London.
The benefit is going to be so much more choices for our passengers, but it's lower cost. So with less stops and more efficient aircraft that we're seeing bringing in, that's going to be a lower cost and it's going to give more options to the travelling public.
Turkish Airlines will be the 50th to fly out of Sydney Airport, while the others are Australian, Asian, Middle Eastern. It will only be the second European carrier after British Airways, after other major European carriers pulled out years ago. Turkish Airlines flies to more countries than any other, 130, with connections to 340 cities. It also flies to 110 European destinations, again, more than any other airline. The New South Wales government helped negotiate the deal with an eye not just to outbound travellers.
A big Turkish community here in Sydney will have their friends and family coming to visit. This could be a big boost to the New South Wales economy, to Sydney's economy.
Destination New South Wales estimates that could generate more than $53 million in visitor spending and create 290 new jobs. Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
Footy finals fever has hit thirsty Camel bottle shops. For today only, a store in Melbourne was helping fans make their love for their AFL team permanent, offering free drive-through tattoos. Fans lined up to get inked, but one staff member bucked the trend, instead pledging his allegiance to his employer.
Yikes. Let's hope they don't have a rebrand. That would be awkward. More sports up next. Rennie Ken Hinkley's backing his big men to get the job done tomorrow night.
It's a bold call, isn't it, Kate? Because he's going to have 4 tools up forward. And after the break, we're going to be live to Brenton Ingram with the very latest selection news, with one defender failing his final fitness test. Why Darcy Fogarty's already back on the tools after knee surgery. Plus, Travis Head's record-breaking innings puts England to the sword in the opening T20. Hello again. Port Adelaide coach Ken Hinkley has rolled the dice on Todd Marshall, recalling him for the Power's knockout semi-final against Hawthorn. Returning live to Brenton Ingram at Alberton. Braithwaite, it's a tall order tomorrow night.
Yeah, it is, Rennie. Look, height will be the name of the game, given Marshall's going to partner Radigalia, Dixon in that forward line, and certainly make things tough. Of course, Georgiades as well will be the other one. So they're going to be expected to kick a winning score and look to exploit that Hawthorn back line, which is a little bit shorter given Sam Frost is out of the lineup. Marshall, we know, has barely played for the past 2 months, and then Dixon's been out of form. So they're going to have to find a way to kick the goals that they haven't been in recent weeks. And then in terms of the defence, we showed you earlier in the bulletin Ryan Burton undergoing that fitness test. He was unable to overcome the calf complaint. He is out of the side, as is Jed McEntee, the unlucky one to make way. The other inclusion, of course, Josh Sin in defence. He's only played the 8 games this year, so a massive test for him. Look, their optimism is still high amongst the Port supporters here at the banner making tonight. They are confident that they can get the job done and make their way into a preliminary final against the Swans. They want to do it for Ken Hinkley. Of course, the pressure has been on him so much in the past couple of weeks.
For the 273rd time, Ken Hinkley will lead his men into footy's cauldron. The question is, will it be his last?
I'm preparing this week to help our team find a way to get into a prelim final. That has got too much riding on it for me to spend any time in those other places that you want me to go. I just won't go there.
Come tomorrow night, the 57-year-old will draw level with Mark Williams for the most games coached at Port Adelaide, hoping next week he can break the record.
Those sort of things, they're in some ways remarkable that I've got to this point, but reality is you reflect on those things after your career, and hopefully there's a lot more to go.
But if the Power is to march into a preliminary final, Zach Butters will have to have a huge impact amid a likely barrage on his sore ribs from the high-flying Hawks.
I say go for it. Unlike most people, unlike some people, Zach's a tough player, really tough player. He won't take a step backwards.
The decision to go ultra tall up forward will either make or break Hinkley's side, the coach showing ultimate faith in Charlie Dixon. Despite the veteran forward's failure to kick a goal in the past 2 games, and the fact he managed just 3 touches in last week's loss to Geelong.
Charlie will always be in the right mindset. I don't think that's an issue for Charlie. He's a born competitor, so he'll be fine.
Hawthorn getting a feel for Adelaide Oval late this afternoon. They'll start as favourites and hold no fear. They have nothing to lose. For the Power, everything is at stake.
We know the outcome this week. If we don't get it right this week, we'll be finished.
Braden Ingram, 9 News.
Well, after an aborted move to GWS last trade period, backup Crows forward Elliot Himmelberg could again be seeking a new home. Nine's chief football reporter Tom Morris has the details.
Tom, I can tell you tonight, Elliot Himmelberg is being courted by Gold Coast. Now, the unrestricted free agent tried unsuccessfully to get to GWS last year and is now weighing up the Suns as a potential home. Adelaide is yet to offer him a contract for 2025, and it's unclear whether the Giants are still keen. Now, off-field, Adelaide's football department review has made it very clear that coach Matthew Nicks needs more support in the coaching ranks. As yet, the Crows have been unsuccessful in trying to lure an experienced official to Westlakes as a director of coaching. CEO Tim Silvers knows where the gaps are. It's understood he's impatient for success, much like many of his fans in 2025. They do, however, believe Nicks is their man, with assistants Scott Burns, Nathan Van Berlo and Jack Homsch all contracted for next year. It's understood there'll be more changes. It just remains to be seen to what degree. But in good news for the club, Darcy Fogarty's recent knee surgery was a resounding success, and he's spoken exclusively to Will Crouch.
Still sporting the scars of his recent surgery, but Darcy Fogarty's very much a man on the mend.
It's feeling really good. So, they went in there and cleaned everything out that they needed to, and it was a really straightforward procedure.
So straightforward that he expects to be back running in the next 2 weeks. Already eager to get to work ahead of pre-season.
It's obviously very important to look after yourself and continue to get the body moving and get it primed for when the day comes, because, if you don't, you're in a bit of strife.
He hopes that approach can see him build on a career year, but for now it's less about highlights and more about high-vis. Fogarty promoting Bunnings' new campaign, offering 5 local footy clubs the chance to win a $50,000 grant to upgrade their facilities.
It's a massive opportunity for clubs. I know Lucendale's got really old club rooms at the moment, so and there's a lot of clubs, especially in our league back home, that have old club rooms that could really use the help.
And while he's been a crucial component of the Crows' rebuild, rebuilding club rooms is a different story.
Absolutely useless. I sort of just sit back and sort of encourage everyone else to get involved.
But while women's star Ebony Marinoff admits she's in the same boat.
Can't even build a bed, so I'm no good.
She knows the club's kicking needs a major touch-up after a wayward return of 5-9 against Fremantle.
We're making sure, goal kicking's a part of each and every training, but it'd be nice to score a few more goals and points this weekend.
Will Crouch, 9 News.
Well, as GWS head into their cutthroat semi-final against Brisbane, much of the Giants' hopes fall on the shoulders of their skipper, Toby Green, needing to produce one of those magical matches if his side is to reach its 5th prelim final.
With no second chances, Giants coach Adam Kingsley was taking no chances at training today, ordering cameras to be turned off.
Just cameras off for the next drill.
Cameras down, but the Giants can ill afford to switch off, coming up against the Lions, themselves fighting for survival.
A fantastic team. It's the reason why they've been in 6 consecutive finals, more than any other team currently.
Captain Toby Green, by his own standards, has been down on form.
He had some opportunities that he would have liked to have taken, and that would have certainly helped us. So we need him to play better than what he did.
Like Sydney's Tom Papley, Toby can turn a game, but he was held goalless in that loss to the Swans.
You need as many as you can close to their best, and particularly our best players. We want to play as well as they possibly can to challenge the opposition.
Across the border, Chris Fagan and his Lions are again on the hunt. They finished outside the top 4, and the September challenge becomes greater by the week.
We don't feel like we've got a hell of a lot to lose. We came from a long way back to sort of get into finals.
The Lions had the luxury last week of a home final in front of a home crowd. However, victory this week will have to be achieved in hostile territory.
We have confidence on the road. We think the way that we play, if we turn up with the right attitude, we can do it anywhere.
In a boost for Brisbane, defender Jack Payne will suit up despite getting scans on his knee through the week.
Well, Adelaide's own Travis Head has had a record day out with the bat in the first of the T20s against England. Head equaled the record for the fastest half-century by an Australian, with his 50 coming off just the 19 balls.
Oh, man out there, but again, he's just getting it from the crowd.
This is remarkable hitting.
Yeah, it certainly was. Head-smashing Sam Curran for 30 runs in 1 over alone. England eventually falling 28 runs shy of their target, helped by this catch from Cameron Green. Very athletic. Well, finally tonight, a long-awaited homecoming for Jason Day, who's set to play on Australian shores for the first time since 2017 when he tees off at the Australian PGA Championship in November. The world number 33 will join fellow Paris Olympian and defending champion Min Woo Lee in the field at Royal Queensland with all the action right here on 9. Fantastic to have our Gold Stars back on our shores. That's it for the sport.
Terrific. Thank you, Reddy. Thursday Finance now, and yet another multi-million-dollar payday for former Qantas boss Alan Joyce. Chris Kohler explains.
It was the best day on our market in almost a month following a rebound on Wall Street overnight. The 1.1% rise means the ASX is back within 100 points of record highs. Big banks continue to lead the way, while some of the big miners are still struggling. BHP is now down 23% so far this year. And Qantas released its annual report, which includes executive pay. It showed former CEO Alan Joyce was paid another $3.4 million, despite leaving the airline only 2 months into the new financial year. He's had millions in bonuses taken back, but there's still quite a bit of money going his way. The Australian dollar pushed higher today, buying close to 67 US cents, 61 euro cents and 51 British pence.
Thank you, Chris. Well, a frosty night to come. Jessica has the weather details coming up after the break.
First, though, here's tomorrow's Speak Yummer. Stay with us.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Lows tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
Hi there. Well, the temperatures are dropping pretty quickly around Adelaide tonight. We did have that nice sunny afternoon, our top of 18 degrees, but right now in the city it's already pulled back to 12 degrees. So a bit of a cold night on the way, but don't worry, the sun will be back tomorrow. Today we did see some cold starts as well, dipping to 3 degrees at Mount Lofty, Mawson Lakes and Elizabeth. But through the northern suburbs we did manage to get to the high teens today, 19 at Mawson Lakes and 18 at Elizabeth. So through the north of the state we rose up into the 20s. We had 23 at Roxby Downs, 22 at Woomera, a cool pocket in around Clare with 16 degrees there. Also 16 degrees at Hindmarsh Island, and it was cold at Mount Gambier actually, just 14 degrees there today. Now we do have that high pressure system just hanging out in the bight. That's still going to be hanging out there tomorrow too, which means our weather isn't really changing very much. You'll see that reflected in the forecast, but around the country we've got Melbourne, the chance of a shower, 17 degrees tomorrow, and Brisbane headed for 22. So lots of sun around our state. We have the beautiful sunny icons there. Another cold start, could be pretty frosty through Port Pirie, Port Augusta in the morning, but then in the afternoon lifting up into the 20s, 23 degrees in store for Port Augusta. Around the south of the state, again, temperatures pretty similar to today. Victor Harbour going for 17 degrees. Keith expecting 18 degrees. There is a chance of a shower at Mount Gambier, but for most places we're looking at basically dry conditions. We do have those frost warnings in place, so certainly through the mid-north and the Murraylands we are looking at a cold start, but we will make up for it with sunny skies come the afternoon. On local waters, we're looking at seas to around half a metre, southeasterlies to 10 knots, turning southeasterly in the afternoon. So let's take a look around the Adelaide suburbs for tomorrow, and as you can see it is looking pretty similar to today. We've got Elizabeth going for 18 degrees, 17 at Outer Harbour. Basically dry conditions, the chance of some frost or some fog through the northern suburbs in the morning, and 18 degrees on the way for you in the city. After that, there is a little dip in temperatures over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday both going for 17 degrees. And Kate, I know you're watching that forecast for Sunday. You've got the City Today coming up. I know you're raising money for charity as well. Looks like the sun should be out and it should be a great day.
Absolutely, getting out for a run for a good cause. I couldn't think of anything better. Thanks, Jessica. Well, that is 9 News for this Thursday. Thanks so much for your company.
Stay with us now for a current affair with further developments a little later. From all the team, enjoy your evening.
Good night.